Yeah, it really does blow your mind, right?
Yeah.
I remember like when that when that amount of money hit our bank account, the bank actually called me and was like, "What just happened?"
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable, real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Have you heard of the short-term craze of becoming a real estate professional status and being able to offset your active income with your passive losses? Now, there's no way of knowing how much time that you have, how much material participation you have in your properties unless you're tracking it. Well, I'm excited about today's show. So if you have a short-term rental, if you have a long-term rental looking to track that information as well too, you're going to love this show. Today's guest is an MD and PhD in molecular biology, trained at Harvard Medical School, is a mom of 3 young kids, a real estate investor, and the founder of Reps Tracker app. So with all of this stuff going on, you better believe it's going to take a team to track this, right? No, stay tuned. Listen to this Reps Tracker app. It's very interesting. Please welcome Dr. Kirsten Limmer. All right, Dr. Kirsten Limmer, here we are. And always, before we get into anything, we talk for so long before we even come on to the air here and just let the guests know, just a great conversation. I'm excited to talk about kind of how our two worlds collided. And before we even get there, tell us a little bit about your background in medicine, right? And where you started at and then where you're at now.
Yeah. So I am a pediatrician. I have an MD and a PhD in molecular biology. And, started just straight pediatrician and, life took some turns, and now I don't just identify as a pediatrician. So I started getting involved in real estate several years back, got more and more involved, and became like a real estate professional, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about. So now I identify as a pediatrician and a real estate professional, and also an app maker.
An app maker and a mother and
yes.
an animal lover.
Yes.
And so anything. So I saw a picture of one of your Instagram posts that looked like maybe out in the backyard, and there is a rooster.
Oh yeah, well, it's actually not a rooster. They're illegal in our town, so but it's a hen. It's a hen.
That's a hen. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yes, I know. She really does look like a rooster, though. It's funny. If she wasn't laying eggs, we would totally think she was a rooster.
Interesting. So I just disclosed my lack of farm ability there, right? Rooster. No, very interesting. And the fact that you are, a pediatrician, a real estate investor, and a mother, you've got kids, animal lover. It's just, there's so much going on. So, are you still practicing right now?
Yes. Yeah. I'm practicing, very part-time, 1 weekend a month. So enough to fill my bucket essentially in the medicine world, and give me enough time to run a business, do real estate, and spend time with my kids.
When you say fill your bucket, what does that mean?
Not financially, but fill my bucket from No. Not 1 week in a month as a pediatrician certainly does not fill your bucket financially.
There you go.
No. Fill my bucket in terms of like why I went into medicine. So, I actually now I do newborn medicine. So I just see the babies when they're born in the hospital, and it is like a fantastic job. It's like, I would say like 90% of the time, of course there's those edge cases, but 90% of the time, it's just like the most joyful position that you can be in is like being part of this family's like monumental thing, that probably the most important thing that happened in their life thus far. Right. And just being like intimately involved in this and with all of these families. So that like fills my bucket. I think if I were to give that up, it would really feel like I had a void, or, I was left a hole. So I still need to hold on to that, despite the fact that I truly don't really have time to be doing that, be with my other adventures, but I just, I do it because I love it.
Yeah, and that perspective of filling your bucket is a wonderful statement because we all have the tendency to put these numbers on our goals or on our directions, but the emotional piece of it, I mean, it just gives me goosebumps to even think about it. That's what wealth is to me. That's
Right.
just happiness and excitement. With the health, you get to be able to share these things, these experiences and these passions that you have with people. So that bucket needs to be filled. That's really
Right.
important. So happily throw that number out, Kirsten, and just don't even worry about that. And when it comes to that, because you have the ability to do that, even though you're trying to squeeze it in. That's why you started medicine, and that's what the passion is. And a lot of the listeners have that same passion. My passion's around real estate. And I live that each and every day. We were recording this. Where are you located? What state are you?
San Diego, California.
Oh, wow. So you are on West Coast. So it's a little earlier there for
10
you.
10 a.m. Yeah.
10 a.m. So here is 1 in the afternoon. I'm in the Carolinas, and my passion led me to working on some development stuff until 3:00 in the morning last night.
Wow.
I'm what you would call a business owner, but still self-employed. But this passion drives me through. I didn't have to do that, right? I know it's not healthy that I do that, but that continues to carry me and push me. And it motivates us at the same time that passion does. So you're driving for that medicine, filling those buckets. Let's talk a little bit about real estate. How did that come about in your medical career? And what was that? What was the first time that you saw it? And then what was the first deal that you actually did?
Yeah. So actually those are two separate instances. So the first time I saw it was we lived in Boston during our training. And when I moved there, I already had a kid as an intern. And so we needed to get at least a 3-bedroom place because we actually needed to have somebody live with us, because those of us who have gone through residency, my husband is a CT surgeon. So both of us were working at least 80 hours a week, probably more, but don't say that out loud. You're not allowed to work more than that, but we all know how it goes. Anyways, we had to have live-in childcare. So we had to have at least a 3-bedroom place. And in Boston, trying to find a 3-bedroom place for rent is like trying to find this like unicorn. And, it's possible, but certainly you're going to pay a ton for it. And we realized that the financial equation worked much better to actually have us buy a place, despite the fact that there were, so many people that were telling us, like, you don't buy a place, first of all, on like a resident and fellow salary, like you just can't. And second of all, like, this is a temporary living situation for you. So why would you buy it and then be in the situation where you have to sell it in a few years? So anyways, despite all these well-meaning people giving us lots of advice to the contrary, we went ahead and bought this fixer-upper. Essentially, it was this house or townhouse in a beautiful area in Boston and Charlestown, if anybody is familiar with the Boston area. But it was like the ugliest place ever. It had like the worst paint colors, which, those of us in real estate, we love looking for places with crappy paint colors, right? Like those bold paint colors, just like put your blinders on, like pretend it's a different paint color, and then you can see the vision, right?
Yeah.
But it really deterred so many people. So the house was on the market for so long. And so we got a good deal on it. Long story short, we lived in there for a few years. We did sell it. Now, I'm not a big fan of selling real estate, but, back then we did have to sell it. And we made for us at the time, it was a massive profit. Like for us, just, having been in training and really just working for pennies on the dollar for years, it was a profit that we would certainly have never been able to accumulate on our own. And so we really saw the power of real estate, and that was just in passive appreciation. Whole Foods moved into the neighborhood. I guess there was some forced appreciation on our part, because when I was post call, I would like knock down non-load bearing walls and like paint.
That's major.
Getting all the aggression out from the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we painted the whole place ourselves, put lipstick on a pig, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
We really didn't change much about the place, but it was enough that we made it look pretty. And so when we sold it, we were able to benefit from some forced appreciation on our part and the passive appreciation for just like the area getting better and the Whole Foods moving into the neighborhood.
Who was it, do you recall, that was telling you not not to do that? Because that happens a lot, Kirsten. That happens a lot.
Yeah. A lot of the older generation, like parents, aunts, uncles, relatives, but, actually a lot of people in medicine, now I can't remember for sure who it was exactly, but, I felt like, anybody that was in medicine that I came across at the time, and obviously we hadn't found our like real estate medicine niche at that point, but, other doctors in the hospital, like, directors of the programs and stuff, I found like they were very conservative in terms of investments in real estate, and kind of held that very popular opinion of like, if you're going to buy a house, you have to be able to hold on to it for decades, or at least you have to be in a position to be able to hold on to it for decades. And if that should be your goal, in order to to benefit from it. Otherwise you could be in trouble. And that was like the message that was getting across to us over and over again.
That perspective is, I mean, instantly it's like trying to compare apples and oranges. It's like, that's the person who may be buying no value add scenario, top of market, on the market, probably investing, doing different things to make it their own. So they're just throwing money away. And you can't even compare that to speaking with somebody in real estate. You say, hey, yeah, that's great. If you have the opportunity to do this, there are ways that you can do it if you had to sell it, then you'd still be okay. It's an equation, but I'm a real estate investor. You're a real estate investor, and it's easier to see that now. But I just wanted to ask, I wanted to ask that question because all of the listeners, I'm sure, have the same thing going on, where they're told not to invest in real estate, stay safe, conservative kind of thing, real estate being an alternative. But even in the perspective of a personal home is not an investment per se, it's still a liability. It's still taking cash out of my pocket. But in this scenario, it was important that you did that. Also, we're juggling, we'll just make it a little muddier too, Kirsten, is the idea of live like a resident, right? And not because you've got all this student debt, now you're going to take on more debt. But there is a difference. There's a line here that with some education, surrounding yourself with the right people, expanding your associations, that these types of investments are possible at any time, right? And we didn't even talk about, like, in that same scenario, finding, obviously in the Boston market would be a little more difficult, but finding a scenario where you could do a seller carry, owner finance, those kinds of things, alternative, subject to, like, how could you just say, no, don't do this if you have no idea what the deal is?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And actually we ended up getting a doctor's loan for that property. So it was fantastic. You lived in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a great move. And it all worked out really well. And yes, I agree with you. And I think that, like, even for a primary home, kind of going in it with that, it's kind of like an investor mindset, right? Like, location, like there's certain, like, I don't know, brute formulas that really are winning strategies. Like a cosmetically ugly house in a great neighborhood, like, is a winning strategy 99% of the time, right? No matter whether you're investing or it's a primary home. So yeah, I think that's really a key point, is like, you just go in with a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of skill, and most of the time you're going to be totally safe. So. Yeah.
I also saw a clip of yours on your Instagram too, of you jumping off a boat, and the tag was jumping into the diversified streams or passive streams of income. I like that. But right there at that point, that's it. It's like you have these different sources of information, naysayers, go ahead, just this all different kinds of stuff coming at you. At some point, you have to make that jump off the boat. You have to take. And it did. And it worked out for you.
Yeah.
For me and my family, especially, we buy off market. Like, I'm direct to seller. That's where, last 7 years I've spent my life in. Oh my goodness. It is not a joy talking to distressed sellers with distressed properties, but it makes it difficult so we recently moved to the Carolinas, and, in the time I was like, okay, in my mind, I pulled the trigger. It's time to go. I'm ready to go. So we flew down here. We looked at some properties. It's so hard to buy something on the market in it, because I was ready to go. It's just at that point, I made the sale to myself, and I was, I guess, the value exchange of, okay, I'm going to appreciate this property. The gain is not going to be monetary. The gain is going to be the time that I spend with my family. I don't want to work on the house. I want a pool. So there's some things that in my mind, I weighed the pros and the cons of that buying it, where if I were to buy it and then sell it 3 months later, I would be in the loss, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's what's working best for you at that, for that season of life, for that particular goal. Yeah. You have to weigh all of the things in that.
Yeah. And so you ended up in Boston. Was it down by the harbor? Is that really bad?
Kind of close to the harbor.
The donkeys?
Yeah.
Oh, we went to Boston for our 10th anniversary. Absolutely loved it, but we were on keto. So it was like misery.
Wow. Yeah. Why would you ever do that?
We did this thing called 75 Hard and literally changed our lives. Absolutely love it. Anybody out there, Google search it, 75 Hard. It is amazing. Absolutely amazing. But we found ourselves, we went out to Boston just for the weekend. Went whale watching. That was so cool. We got to see whales. It was a fun time. Very cool area. So you're in Boston. You have this place as a personal property. Where does the first kind of real estate? I mean, that was the trigger. Like when you see these, the first time I saw a piece of paper turn into tens of thousands of dollars in assignment of contract. So I put a property into contract to purchase. I have a cash buyer. I assign my interest in the property to another buyer. I literally turn this piece of paper into 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000. Blows my mind, right?
Yes. Yeah, it really does blow your mind, right? Yeah. I remember like when that when that amount of money hit our bank account, the bank actually called me and was like, "What just happened?" Like, we're not making a lot of money up until this like a big, huge amount just hit your account. And I was like, oh, we just sold our house. And that was like the profit. And she was all, girl, you did a good thing.
That must have been a hometown bank. It wasn't Chase Bank then, huh? Right.
Right.
That's fun. So we've got this trigger event in your life that says, and that's that reality of, you know, if you've read the Little Purple Book, I've heard it referred to, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This idea that money is an idea. It's something we create. And these things through real estate, through value add scenarios, forced equity, buy low, sell high, all of this stuff, appreciation, it creates this opportunity for this trigger effect. So this has happened in your life. And when does that now turn into investing in real estate as opposed to, you know, doing a good turn on your personal house?
Right. Yeah. So we did take that money and bought our forever home, which I'm, you know, talking to you right now from. But immediately we started thinking about how we were going to start investing in real estate. So very soon after closing on our forever home, we started pushing our funds towards the next acquisition, and that this would be the intention of being an investment property. So we did buy a short-term rental in the Palm Springs area. And that was several years ago. So that was before, you know, the big boom of short-term rentals. So it was kind of the glory days for those people that have been in the short-term rental world for a while, because it was so much easier to run a short-term rental back then. You were kind of, you know, you didn't have quite so much competition. The guests tended to be a little more chill, but you know, I realized that it's still a great place to be in this in the real estate world. It was wonderful back then. So anyways, we bought this short-term rental. It did very well. Cash flowed really well. And unfortunately, the regulations did change a couple of years ago, right around COVID, or right after the lockdown, to outlaw short-term rentals. And so, you know, the equation kind of changed for us. So we sold another piece of real estate, which I'm not a big fan of, but in that case, it was just not working for us anymore. But we did take that money, 1031 exchanged it. Nice. And at that point, we had already accumulated several properties down in the South. And so we 1031 to more properties and just expanded our empire from there. So yeah, it's been a, like, you know, sort of bursts of energy with our real estate portfolio, which has been really fun.
Beautiful. And just to kind of touch on that 1031 idea,
Yeah.
neither of us are CPAs. I always love saying
Yep.
that. And the idea of the 1031 exchanges. So when there's a trigger event of a sale of a property, we love real estate because we depreciate it, meaning that we offset our income by showing the loss on the property, depreciation of the property. But when we sell it, it has to be recaptured. Right. So in the way to continue to kick the can down the road, which is what this is, right, is called the 1031 exchange. So instead of paying taxes on that capital gains, basically, we're going to continue to kick the can down the road by hitting these special steps in the 1031 exchange, which require it to be a like property, meaning like investment property kind of thing. And then within a certain time frame, and you can do these before or after. So that's just a general summary of that 1031 exchange, but it's really cool because then that allows us to do the exchange, depreciate, never have to recapture that that capital gain.
Yeah. Not for the faint of heart. Yeah. It was one of the more stressful times of my life was when that clock started ticking for the 1031 exchange.
The time period. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. But it's fun. Once it's all said and done, you really feel like you accomplished something, but it's that the time period is the real kicker for the 1031.
So the interesting part of that too, Kirsten, is that you can actually do it before. Like you can go find your other property and then sell this property, which may lift the stress a little bit too.
Yes. Yeah. There's so many. It's almost like a puzzle or like a Tetris game or something. There's like so many pieces.
You're like, well,
if this happens,
it's all crazy. It's all.
You're right.
How can I make this so complicated that people don't even want to try to use it?
Right. Right.
It's the number of thousands and thousands of pages of the tax code is just mind blowing.
Yeah.
Mind blowing. That's a whole different thing. But here we are leveraging the goods of it. And you now have these properties in the South. Are you like Southeast or
Tennessee and Alabama?
Oh, okay. Interesting. Tennessee, Alabama. And now are these all short term?
No, they're actually all long-term right now. So currently I don't have any short-term rentals, which is, a little, I don't know, tear-jerking for me. I actually really love I love short-term rentals. I love hospitality. It's just not in the cards for me right now with a little more time commitment, depending on how you structure it. Right now with my other businesses, I just can't run a short-term rental at the same time.
I think you hit that right on the nose too with it's hospitality, and it's a totally different direction. When I speak with prospective investors or clients, or even my wife with our portfolios, it's different. Like it's the hospitality piece, and it's got to align with your values, and it's got to align with your time. Right. Because it's a different renovation. It's typically a different area, a different price point. And then on the management side, there's much more that goes into it. There's much more cost, or there's much more time that goes into it. So it has to align with where you're at now and where you see yourself to be throughout the life of that asset too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree with you. And sometimes I will caution people against thinking of short-term rentals as solely just an investment. Of course, you can structure it like that. You can just offload all of that and be somewhat passive in your short-term rentals and have a property manager and all that kind of stuff. But if you're going to be running it yourself, you have to love hospitality. You have to love talking to guests, and be okay with dissatisfaction and being able to navigate, certain guests' requests and stuff like that is very different than having a long-term rental tenant. So I love it.
Do you see the smile on my face? Just my experience through the years of dealing with this, even the ones that we have completely managed. When I say completely, it's never completely. And I mentioned this before. I can't remember if it was during our recording or not. There's no such thing as passive income. Right. Yeah. So no matter how much you try, it's never going to be 100% passive. So even when they're managed out, the smile comes to my face of all these weird things that happen in the short term. Like in the long term, it's I don't really see it. Right. You don't, maybe we'll have some of them that will have quarterly or, annual inspections. But for the most part, you don't see these weird things. In short terms, I've seen so many weird things. It's crazy. Like people taking pictures off all the pictures. This happened multiple times. They'll take all the pictures off the wall. And
Yes.
the weirdest thing was the one guest took all the pictures off the wall and started to put them in the broiler of the oven, put several of them in the broiler, and then
What?
used the oven so it burned the pictures. It's like, what? Where did these? What was
Yeah.
that
You kind
about?
of wish that like you could have been a fly on the wall and seen like what's the rationale
Maybe
for
we
doing
don't
this?
though. Maybe we don't want to
Yes,
be a fly
actually,
on that wall. Maybe
that's
some of
probably
that kind
better.
of thought process is contagious. You're like, no, I don't want any of that.
You're
Just the
right. You're
weird
right.
comments. Like it's a whole different thing. And I love Airbnbs just because we at least double the income on the property. It changes the tenant class. It changes, what we can do with the property. So I love it, but it's entertaining because there's so much more. And we can have like a brand new property, just got renovated. First guest comes in, oh, great, 5-star. Next guest comes in, it's like noticeable smell. And it's like, what? That's the same person that we had to charge additional costs because they trashed the place,
Yes.
Hey,
Yeah.
I wonder
Yeah.
where that smell came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, fly on that wall. There was flies on the walls after that guest. But ultimately, absolutely love it. Love the short term. In your process, Kirsten, what I want to talk about is kind of how our worlds connected. We have a company called Physician Well Systems where we work directly with physicians, building a turnkey real estate investment company. And in this company, we're doing 12 properties in 12 months. And what we love to do is to put these short terms in there to diversify a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But this also presented the opportunity to leverage this massive tax code we're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. And
this interesting piece where the material involvement versus what time you put in other professions, your other income, and kind of like lowers the barrier for all of this to become this thing called a real estate professional, and then the status, right? The REPS. And when I first started researching this to say, man, this is a great opportunity because some physicians, most physicians are married to physicians like yourself, right? Because you're working not more than 80 hours a week together, right? But some physicians have the ability to have their partner or their wife or husband who stay at home or, maybe have a less involved profession, but gives them the ability to become this real estate professional. Yeah. But the key piece of this is, okay, what is it? And then how in the world am I tracking this thing? And our worlds combined, I was telling you before we came on here, I was searching this. I was researching, finding these physicians who are doing this. And then all of a sudden, here comes Reps Tracker pops up. And I remember seeing you on YouTube videos. It was probably about a year ago. And it was so amazing to see on both of our calendars today that our worlds came together and we get to share this with the listeners. Where did the Reps Tracker come from?
Yeah, really good question. And Brett, do you think we can pause for 1 second because my computer is about to run out of batteries and I'm just going to run. I totally thought I had it plugged in and it just popped up. So hold on 1 second.
No worries.
I thought I would let you finish that whole sentence so you'd have a place to hold on.
What is Reps Tracker?
Yeah, so good question. So Reps Tracker is an app and a website that I created. Mostly it was born out of necessity for myself. So I was in a position to declare real estate professional status, back during the lockdown when I scaled down my clinical time very significantly, scaled up my real estate, and all of a sudden I was in this great position to be a real estate professional. And I realized that there was really no good tools out there to help me kind of document and keep organized all of this like huge evidence burden that is essentially required of you to be able to show that you're a real estate professional. And so I, kind of looked everywhere, tried to like hack some systems, hack some like generic time tracking apps. And I realized that like this was just a hole in the marketplace. And I remember I was putting on my shoes one day and I was like, I know exactly what it needs to be. Like I like just the whole like algorithm came to my mind in one big like vision. And so I decided to make it myself. So yes, it's an app and a website that helps people that are declaring real estate professional status or trying to do the short-term rental loophole
And it helps them keep evidence and time track all of their hours for that.
Very interesting. So now, in the midst of being the pediatrician, the real estate investor, the mom, the animal lover, all of these things, we've now added app developer in there. And I know exactly where you were trying to like hack these time management apps and, time trackers, all of this stuff. I remember, and that's when I came across you. I just mentioned it was awesome. And what is amazing too is that moment, that epiphany moment where you're like injected into this state of flow where everything just comes in. And that's the beauty that we talk about actually a lot on the show, of where the entrepreneur is born. And in medicine, it is so crazy. First of all, congratulations for jumping off the boat, not only in real estate, but for this idea as well too. Right. Because especially in medicine, I guess the trend is like to squeeze you down, because to be risk adverse, to make sure that you're following these processes, because it's people's lives that are on at stake here. But now we have to change. We have to jump off the boat again and do something like this. So first of all, congratulations for taking that launch, and I'm sure that you're helping so many people with this, as I'm certain. I've struggled through that myself, and that's where we cross paths. So this app, this is web-based app that everybody could actually find at repstracker.com, repstracker.com. And you said it helps track if you want to be a real estate professional status, whether it's the short-term loophole or the full tracking mechanism. And also, I watched a clip from your Instagram as well too, where you were saying that you're using it even in your long term, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So yes, I do. You mean using it for my long-term rentals, or just using it in general? Yes.
Use it for your long-term rentals.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So, so now I am not actually a real estate professional, because ironically, the time that I spend on Reps Tracker over the last 2 years has overshadowed my my time in real estate.
Development of the app, growing of the growth of the company, all of these things, and that is definition of irony in itself.
Right. Oh my gosh, it killed my CPA when she found that out. She's like, but anyways, so I am no longer an actual real estate professional. I don't declare that on my tax return anymore. But I do use the app to track all of the things that, like, you just daily happen with your real estate, like, all the things that you kind of go back and you think that you're going to be able to remember, like where you put that, where you stored that receipt, blah, 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 blah. And so I still use Reps Tracker for organization purposes, despite the fact that I'm not actually using it to qualify for reps.
And to even, I mean, if there are any listeners out there today who are like, would I qualify, or is this just too overwhelming? Really, just like everything else in our lives, and every time, and I've spoke with my team, everything I can imagine, if I'm not tracking, then I don't know. Right. Yeah. So even if you think you can do this, or if you think you can do it, I think it's great to go to the website and try it out. If you have properties and you're investing material time into these, meaning what does this material thing mean to you?
Yeah. So spending time on your properties that you own. So that can be, well, number one, it can take a lot of different forms. And number two, there can be some black and white areas and some gray areas. So, it's that definition does tend to be like a little bit of a moving target, but essentially spending time on the properties that you own. So whether you're like going to repair a sink, like, picking up a hammer and nail is usually, it looks like it's a pretty cut and dry thing that you're actually, that's a material participation. But, talking to tenants, vetting, a guest, or, doing a walkthrough, getting applications from your tenants, stuff like that. So anything that you, in order for your property and your business to continue to run, that you need to do. So, and however you want to take that definition, you can.
It's great, because, I'm sure everybody is one of the hard parts of this stuff too, because everybody has an opinion, everybody has a perspective. But what it comes down to, if you're not tracking anything, you have no idea if you're even close or if it's feasible or even how hard it may be. And then two, this gives you the ability to communicate clearly with your CPA, which when it comes down to it, they're the one that's signing for this. They've got to stand behind this, right? And yeah, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. I mean, that you totally hit the nail on the head with both of those points. The first point being like, you just have no idea that how quickly those like minutes and time that you've been naturally spending on your real estate add up. It's kind of like, if you saved $1 a day or $1 every time you did a transaction, like how quickly it would be very surprising to you that you would actually get to like $1,000 by the end of the year. It's like the same type of situation. Like I think most people underestimate how much time they're actually spending on their property. So until you have data to show yourself, you really just don't know whether you can qualify for this or not. It's really good to see throughout the year. Like I tell people, like, look, don't just use it at the end of the year. Like keep tabs on it all year long. What's your total? Like, do I need to, this is a very important thing for my, finances, for my tax return. Maybe I need to kind of pivot my strategy. Maybe I need to acquire a new place or whatever, of course, don't let the tax tail wag the dog. But, there's certain instances where like small pivots in your business can really make a big difference for your bottom line. So but really like you just need the data to show you. You can't do anything without having the data. And now I totally forgot what your second point was.
The CPA, making sure that, you're collecting that data and making sure that it gives you the ability to communicate it with your CPA, because they're the ones that have to know and understand and back and say, yes, this is good. This is good. We can do this. We can do this.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really nice to be able to very quickly have your CPA be able to collaborate and see those hours and see, and the way that Reps Tracker does it is it organizes it really easily so that they can see, oh, you've got like, 20 hours of travel time, like something that you've organized as travel time. Like, let's really dig into this because that's a gray area, and so it really lessens the amount of work that you have to do at the end of the year. It increases the confidence of your CPA. It just really helps like streamline the entire process and make it more transparent for everybody. So, yeah.
Very interesting. And there you said something to it. I won't dive too far into it, but it triggered my brain here. Don't let the tax tail wag the dog. And in my mind, as soon as you said that, it reminds me of doing these things to, acquire depreciation or to make write-offs, those kind of things. But in the meantime, you defund the business, basically. You lose all of your cash. And that is not a place where anybody wants to be, I promise you. So I just wanted to touch on that. This idea of you don't know what you have until you track, or if you've got other mechanisms of tracking, or you don't know if this would be good for you or not, but you're in real estate. I think either way, this is a great way, because you have a 14-day free trial on there, 14-day trial to where you can track to say, hey, is this really working? Is this worth it? Right. Yeah. So I think it's just a great way to go on there. So repstracker.com is a great way. If you're out there, if you've got long-term, short-terms, whatever it is, and you're thinking about this real estate professional status, this is it. Take action, make the difference. And I say that so many times on the show. If this plants a little seed of curiosity in your mind, take action and see what it's about,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know you said this already, but it also does track for short-term rental, the short-term rental loophole too, which is a little bit easier to qualify for. So, and there's some information on the website too. So if you're totally in the dark about what's the difference between each one, you can also go on the website.
I feel like we're all in the dark.
Like, I think that's intentional.
Gray areas, right? There's some gray areas we may tip our head into every now and then, and then laws change. And then
yes, yeah. Then you have to get
different
all
administration
comes,
comes,
and
then
I know.
all the way down into the municipalities, because we do a lot of our stuff is midterm, because of the municipality change, and when I say midterm, it's 30 days, a minimum of 30 days, which would not qualify for the loophole, right? Because that's 7 days or shorter on average.
It is, but actually there's a loophole of the loophole.
Two
and
loopholes.
That I know. So if you have a place that's 30 days or less and you offer hotel-like services, which, is a whole different ballgame, but then you could potentially qualify for the short-term rental loophole.
It's interesting. So it's kind of like towels and linens and cleaning.
Yeah, probably more
room
than towels
service.
and linen, but like maybe
everybody's got room service, right? It's called DoorDash, right?
Yes, yeah. However you want to kind of carve that out for yourself, but
the gray area.
You might have to I might have to dig in more to the hotel-like services and see whether you can truly offer that. But yeah, it's kind of a cool loophole of the loophole.
Interesting. So we've got RepsTracker. .com. Other great place I love watching what you're up to these days is the Instagram. I've talked about this a lot, which I divulged my lack of farmability earlier on that one. I saw that on RepsTracker, at RepsTracker on Instagram. And then you also have Kirsten Invests on Instagram as well, too. So I think that's great. Thank you so much for your time today. I've got one last question for you, Kirsten.
Yes.
10 years ago. Where were you at 10 years ago? Better yet, what if you could go back 10 years and see yourself and tell yourself something? What would it be?
Oh gosh, you know what? I'd say buy everything that you see. Just over leverage the crap out of yourself. But that's with the benefit of hindsight, of course. Yeah. But that's honestly probably what I would do.
Interesting, because now that's the first thing that pops into my mind on that is the interest 10 years ago, kind of where is that wow, this last year, like we watched the interest rates double in 12 months, it's crazy. But it's cyclical. History repeats itself. Residential is offset from commercial, and don't get fixated on this particular moment. Don't ever get stuck in the past, but don't ever not learn from the past. And that's really important. And it comes down to, the proverb too of, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago and today. So we're in that market, and it comes down to where we started too with the naysayers of you telling you not to buy your first house. It's acquisition is an equation. And it doesn't matter what the market is. It doesn't matter where money is or administration or anything like that. If you make accurate, conservative projections, you remove the emotion from the acquisition. It comes down to math. And guess what? Math never changes.
Yeah. I totally agree. And actually, sorry, I know you're trying to wrap this up, but it's just one little aside. I went to a conference recently and somebody put up a graph and we're like, if you were to buy a house like this year, basically, chose all the years from like 1995 forward, every single year, even right before the like big recessions and what was that, like 2000, what was the big recession? 2008?
Yeah, 7, 8. That's the year I bought my first house.
Yes. Yeah. So even right before those bubble pops, if you had bought a house and held on to it to today, you still would have made a winning financial decision for, on average. So it was eye-opening. And so her whole thing was that, even though it's scary to buy today, it's still probably going to be the right decision 20 years from now if you're making smart decisions for your real estate portfolio. Yeah.
Removing the emotion and leaning on the math is the big piece. And alongside of that, I will also put in there, having a dependable power team that is doing for themselves what you want to do with them, if that makes sense. Yeah. So having the accountants that also invest in real estate, having a real estate agent who owns rentals, right? Having a property manager that owns short-term rentals and is managing short-term. So that's a really important piece of it too. So it goes beyond the math equation, but the math is a foundation, and profits are made on the acquisition and realized on the sale if you ever were to sell them. And we talked about that briefly. So, well, Kirsten, it's been absolute pleasure speaking with you. Man, it's so exciting. And again, congratulations on taking that jump, not only into real estate, but in the app development. I think it's awesome. And I want all the listeners to go out and take a look at this thing and just test and measure. I mean, that's all we do from business. That's all we do in relationships. We've got to test and measure in order to get better each and every day. So thank you for making our day brighter and bringing a smile on our face today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Awesome. And the listeners out there, again, thank you for your attention today. And if you are interested in this short-term rental or tracking your long-term, whatever it may be, this is a great way. Jump onto that 14-day free trial. You can find it at repstracker.com. You can find Kirsten at Instagram, so at repstracker. Follow along on the stories here. You could see the hen, not the rooster, the hen on Instagram as well too. Follow along in her journey. And if you guys have any questions for us, please send us an email at info@physicianwellsystems. If you would like to be a guest, that'd be awesome. Send us an email. If you know of anybody that should be a guest and have a great time having a conversation on here, let us know. And until then, we'll catch you on the next show here. Real Estate Mogul MD. Thank you again.